Hey Meeple people, and on today's vlog, we're going to be playing The Hunger by Renegade Game Studios and Origames. Let's get to it! Hey everybody, how's it going? And today we are playing The Hunger by Renegade Game Studios and Origames. This is designed by Richard Garfield, plays 2 to 6 players, and takes about 60 minutes to play, if you don't include the learning time. So, Sarah, would you be willing to teach us and show us a little bit about the game?
Sure. So The Hunger is a deck building and racing game. Each player is going to start with a deck of cards that's a little bit unique to them, but for the most part, our decks are going to be similar at the start of the game. So what's going to happen is we're going to be buying new cards throughout the course of the game, which will go into our decks or our play area, and it will sort of individualize our own decks of cards. We're also going to be racing, so this is primarily a race game. We are these vampires, and we start our sort of castle abode in the mountains here, and we are racing through this map to hunt as many humans as we can before the sun comes up. So we have, I think it's 15 hours. We're going to be running. It's a very long night. We're going to be running through this area here, collecting treasure, picking up missions that we're going to be attempting to accomplish throughout the game, and eating humans. So the way that it works is, on a player's turn, they're going to draw the top 3 cards of their deck, and those cards, among other potential things that you could do with those cards are going to have these numbers on them. These numbers are dual-purpose numbers. You're going to use them as speed in the game, and you can use speed to either travel along the map or to purchase new cards. So in this hand right here, my speed is going to be a total of 7, which means that I have to determine how far on the map that I want to move and which cards I want to buy. Right now, because we're just at the very start of the game, there's only a few cards to buy, and each of them costs 3 speed. However, throughout the course of the game, these are going to be moved down. We may end up with cards having accumulated into large piles here. There will be more cards in each of these places, so there will be some choice later on in the game about which cards I want to purchase and how much those cards will cost. So typically I can make 1 purchase from the market. No matter what cards I'm getting, I can only make 1 purchase. And then the rest of this here, I have to determine if I want to use it to move along the map. So the map has just these little spaces here, and they do different things, and they have different sort of land types and things like that. There are different symbols, like this blue one here, that's a well. There's also ones where there are places where you can ingest certain humans that you've already eaten to get them out of your deck. You still get the points for them at the end of the game, but then you don't have to have them clog up your deck as you go.
So it's like trashing in other games.
Kind of, yeah. It's like trashing it, but you still get to keep the card just off to the side. There are also these crypt spaces where if you end your turn on a crypt space, you can look through all of these missions right here. I'll show you mine. Every player starts the game with one of these. There are also 2 public missions, and then you can pick these missions up if you end your turn on those spaces. Basically, these are things that I want to be attempting to accomplish throughout the course of the game, and if I'm able to do that, then at the end of the game, I'll get some extra points. However, you only score points in this game if you can make it throughout the land and all the way back to the castle. Now, there's quite a few sort of just very minor variations that you can add to this game depending on if you want it to be more difficult or more kid-friendly or that kind of stuff. So there's different variations that you can include to sort of change the difficulty level of the game and some things like that. one of the things that you can change is whether or not players just entirely lose the game if they don't make it all the way back to the castle. So normally what would happen is if you're playing like the full-on experience, you have to make it all the way back to the castle in order to not just simply lose. That means if you make it to the castle, you can at least count all the points you've acquired and see if you're going to win. So it kind of makes you eligible to win, right? If you don't make it back to the castle, you're not even eligible to win. But some of the variations include making it back to different parts, right? So one of them is like, if you actually just make it back to the cemetery, which are these spaces right here, you'll lose 5 points, but you're still eligible to win. So you get to count up all of your points, just less 5 of those for ending up only in the cemetery here. There's others that say if you just make it into the mountains, you find a small little craggy rock and you can just kind of hide in that crag until the sun goes down again. So you'll lose even more points. I think it's 10 for that one. You'll lose even more points, but you still are eligible to win. And then there's different variations on that. If you want to make it like, more family or beginner friendly, you can do different variations on that. For our game though, we are going to say you have to make it all the way back to the castle to be eligible to win. So at the end of the game, if you're not here, you're not even eligible to win. We're not even going to count our points. We're just going to say, well, sucks to be you. So what's going to happen is on a player's turn, they're going to draw 3 cards from their hand. They're going to determine if they have any discard or draw abilities. So some of the cards may say that if you have a if you have a human like in your hand of cards, then you can draw an extra card. Or if you have a familiar, then maybe it's going to let you discard a card and then draw another card. So you'll discard and draw all of your discard and draws first. Then you'll calculate your speed and you'll move on the map. When you've decided to stop moving on the map or you've run out of movement, if you've landed on any special spaces like the well or the crypt or the spaces where you can ingest humans you've eaten or treasures or any of those kind of things. If you land on any special spaces, you can interact with that space. And then the last thing that you'll do on your turn is spend any additional speed that you have left over to purchase new cards for your deck. And when you purchase a new card for your deck or multiple cards, if you happen to get a big pile of cards here, they just go to your discard pile unless it's a familiar. There are a few types of cards in this deck. One of them is familiars. Familiars are always purple, and they give you a sort of permanent ability. Now, some of them you have to discard after you've used, but a lot of them are just going to kind of hang out like off to the side and give you an ongoing permanent ability. So once you've gotten your cards and you've discarded things or placed your familiars or that kind of thing, the last thing you'll do on your turn is you'll draw 3 new cards to replenish your hand, and then it's your opponent's turn. When every player has completed their turn for a round, we're going to do a few things to move on to the next round, including move this moon along this track up here. And when the moon gets all the way to the last spot on the track, players have one final turn where they're just going to try to get to the castle as fast as they can. If you haven't done that by the end of the 15th turn, though, based on which win conditions you chose at the beginning of the game, you may or may not be eligible to win. There are a few different things that may change or affect the way I've described it. For example, if you pick up these treasures in the game, you can use the treasures to do various things. And I don't see it out at this game. Maybe it's one of these face down treasures. Maybe it's not in this game, but there is a treasure that's a parasol. So that's like an umbrella. And if you have a parasol, then you have one turn after the 15th round where you can't buy anything. You have to just like run as fast as you can. You've got like this silly little umbrella and you're just like running like as the sun is like coming up over the ridge, you're just like booking it for the castle, hoping that your little parasol will protect you from the sun until you can make it back into the castle. But if you don't have the parasol, the game ends after the end of the 15th round. If you've made it back to the safe area, whatever safe area you've set for that game, then you get to add up all of your points. Whoever has the most points wins. So there's a few things here and there that I didn't touch on, but for the most part, that is The Hunger by Richard Garfield. Should we give it a try, Nick?
Yeah, let's go ahead and jump into it. So we'll see you all back mid-game. And until then, toodles! Hey, people, and we're back, and we're in the middle of The Hunger, and we're going to go ahead and see how Sarah's doing right now, as well as myself. But let's go ahead and start with Sarah. So,
Hi, everybody.
hello.
I actually had The Hunger and went and got some M&Ms, so sorry about that. So yeah, we are in approximately the middle. We're just headed into round 8 of 15. And I am all the way over here, all the way at nearly the end of the road. I'm going to have to run all the way back. But I showed you that tile that I had at the beginning of the game that said that if at the end of the game I had a rose, I got some extra points. So the roses themselves are worth points. They give you some permanent abilities that you can use throughout the game. So they themselves are already something valuable to pursue. But then because I had this, I decided that I would really try to get one of those this turn, or this game. So I sort of I went around the outside edge of the board, and I used this sort of like C route to get there. So I ran all the way around the edge of the board, and I'm just almost there. I have one more spot to go, and I'll pick up a rose.
But the thing is, too, we have to stop there. We can't just pick it up.
We have to stop,
have all
pick
this
up the
movement.
rose, and then on our next turn, then we can go back. And I'm going to need to book it back because it's taken me a little bit more than half of the game to get there. So I really got to run on the way back. And I've been accumulating some humans on the way, so they sort of jam up your deck and slow you down. So I'm going to be even moving more slowly going back. But I feel like I'm in a pretty good place on the scoreboard so far. Nick's at 38 and I am at 42. I also have 3 of the missions, and I feel pretty good about them. I have one that I'm going to score points for no matter what happens for the rest of the game, as long as I can make it back to the save zone. And then I have 2 that are works in progress. One is that rose. I'm just about to acquire the rose that I need for that one. And then the other one I think I can probably work on as I make my way back to the castle. So I'm feeling pretty good. My deck is not super powerful, I don't think. Excuse me. There are some humans in it, so that's going to sort of slow me down. But I don't have any humans with any of the sort of unique traits. So there's some humans that have unique traits that will further slow you down. I don't see any on the board right now, but earlier Nick ingested a spicy human, and when you eat a spicy human, what happens is you put that card in your deck, and the next time that it comes up, you actually have to lay it aside, and then while the spicy human is in play, the only thing you can do is go to the nearest well, and you have to you can't focus on anything else. You're just your throat's on fire, and you're trying to get some water to quench your thirst. So they can kind of force you into playing a certain way, and I don't have any of those humans in my deck. So theoretically, I should be able to grab this rose and then really try to book it for the exit. And we'll just see. We'll see what happens.
Very cool.
What do you think, Nick? What's going on over there?
So I have actually 2 of those spicy humans in my deck right now, but they're permanent. So there are cards that come out that actually we'll talk about. If you have a human in your play area, so that's kind of a bonus. But
yeah, because the human stays in your playing area basically until you quench your thirst.
Like your familiars or these creatures here.
Yeah,
they'll stay out there.
So they'll stay out, and then if you have a human in your play area, some of the other cards do nice stuff for you. Just say if you have a human in your play area, draw a card or whatever. So it is kind of an interesting strategy to have a spicy human, because while they're in play, then you might be able to use the rest of your deck more efficiently. So it's definitely interesting. We'll see if it pans out in a way that works well for you.
Yeah, I'm definitely playing differently than I did last time. Last time I picked up a whole bunch of humans on my way to the Rose. And then when it got to kind of the end of the game, I was like, oh, I need to turn around.
I don't even think you ended up making it to the Rose, did you?
No, I
You got
didn't.
pretty close, but then you're like, I gotta go back.
Yeah, I had to go back and I was trying to run back while still trying to feed. But I had so many humans that were just jamming up my deck. I wasn't moving fast at all. And I actually didn't make it back to the castle. I died a horrible, horrible death by the sun.
I feel like I did pretty good our first game, but I don't know if I'm going to do as well this game. I accumulated a lot of points and I made it back to the castle in our last game, but this game, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to see how, because we're both about to get a Rose on this next turn, but we're both stopping. So that's going to be kind of interesting because I've got a lot of movement. I don't know about you, but I'm going to be wasting a lot of movement, and it's only the 8th.
And you don't necessarily have to waste it. So with your what Nick is calling the movement, that's your
currency.
Yeah, it's the currency in the game, right? So like on my next turn, if I don't look at any of the modifiers, I'll have 4, right? So the I can move 4 spaces, or I can buy a card that costs 3, 2, or 1, or cards, maybe if I get a pile of 1s, right? Or I could do like both. So if I have $4, I could buy a 3 and then move 1 space, right? Or if I bought like a 2, then I could move 2 spaces or that kind
Well,
of.
you gotta move before you buy.
Well, yeah, but my point is you can use those cards however you want. So if I wanted to run 4 spaces, I just wouldn't buy anything.
Yeah.
I would just run 4 spaces. Or if I wanted to buy a 2, then I could still run 2 spaces. So you have to kind of balance, what are you going to buy and how far are you going to move?
Yeah. All right, so we're going to go ahead and jump back into it in our game of The Hunger by Renegade Games Studios and Origames. So we will see you guys at the end and give you some of our final thoughts. So until then, we will see you all in a sec. Toodles! Welcome back, Meeple people, and we both died. We both died horrible deaths in the sun, and our vampiric skin just burst us into flames, and we just didn't survive. I would like to say, I didn't survive, and Sarah was, 1 away,
so
and so,
close.
some Van Helsing character came out and said, "Not today, vampire," and took her out. But, yeah, I totally didn't make it, because I was, I think, too greedy with how many humans I consumed. But let's go to Sarah and ask her of her opinion of The Hunger. Dun, 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 dun.
I was so close. If I would have just made it 1 more space, I could have dove into a crypt or something like that and hid from the sun. But I didn't. I died right before it. I was actually able to get that far because I had a parasol. So after the end of the 15th round, I had 1 more turn where I couldn't hunt or anything like that, but I was just running as fast as I could.
If I had a parasol, I would have been able to actually make it.
Yeah. I almost made it. I would have dove in right as the sun was creeping up, but it didn't work almost, but not quite. I actually looked at the end of the game, I actually looked through my deck to see how many turns it would have taken me. And even if I would have had 17 rounds, or 18 rounds, something like that, I still would have needed 3 turns after my last turn in order to not die. So we've played, this is our second game of The Hunger. Now we played sort of a practice game before this, and then we played this one as well. And we actually sort of played maybe a quarter of another game as well, because what we did was when we very first sat down to play, we played the rookie version, and we played a quarter of a game of the rookie version, and then we said stop, let's just stop what we're doing, let's go, let's play the elder version is what they call it.
Which isn't that hard.
It's really not that much more difficult than the rookie version, in my opinion. The hardest thing is if we would have been playing in the rookie version, there was a chance that we could have maybe both survived in this area here. So I personally think, and I got frustrated with the rookie version when we played a quarter of it. I said, I don't like this. Let's just reset and let's play a regular game, a regular version of the game, which is the Elder version, they call it. I understand that they were trying to make it more accessible for players, but really there's not that much different about the rookie version and the Elder version. And what you have to do in order to sort of like accommodate the differences for the rookie version, I think is not worth it. It really doesn't change things up that much, but you have to do a lot of like specific setup, and the rules are a little bit different for just a couple of situations. So I really felt like it wasn't even worth doing the rookie version. Just play the Elder version. It's simpler, in my opinion, in the long run. I'm not entirely sure that I loved this experience in any of the 3 games that we played, or the 2.25 games that we played. It's definitely interesting, and there's definitely like a challenge. You know, in some games you feel like it's like you versus the game, even if it's a competitive game and it's really you versus like your opponents. In some games, I feel like you can kind of ignore the you versus the opponents thing and really concentrate on what you're doing and the game itself for you. And sometimes you'll still interact with your opponents or whatever, but for me, those kinds of games where you're like, it's me versus the board and you versus the board, and whichever one of us can do better, that person will win. I felt like that's the case with this game here. We could interact with each other a little bit. You can, if you end up near another vampire, you can push them. And I had a familiar, which would have allowed me to also force someone that I pushed to discard cards, but I didn't use that. So there's not a lot of, in my opinion, there's not like a ton of player interaction here. It's really just like me focused on sort of my stuff and how I can best, use that to sort of do what I feel like I need to do in the game. I don't know that I liked it for a few reasons, but I think one of the reasons is because I love Clank. Clank is one of my all-time favorite games. And this game is different than Clank. And I think if you like Clank, or if you don't, if you like deck building games or racing games, you should definitely give this a try. But that being said, for me, I absolutely love Clank. And while I think this game may have a few points of advantage over Clank, I felt like my perception of Clank is that it's more fun, it's more fulfilling, it's less of a waste of time, and I also just like the theme better, which is not that big of a deal, but I'm not into vampires. Not at all.
A little overdone.
It's totally overdone. And I was telling Nick, this is a little bit of a side jaunt, but I was telling Nick, I said, when vampire lore was like initially created, vampires were supposed to be these terrifying monsters that were supposed to be, like near impossible for humans to beat. And they were supposed to be these like very mysterious creatures, very rare. And where we've gotten to the point with vampire lore is so far away from the origins, which is fine. Things can grow and evolve and change and stuff like that. But I think like this sort of caricatures, she looks friendly and happy and healthy. And, the point is that we're supposed to embody these vampires and go along and like eat these humans and stuff. I personally just like I'm not into like any of that at all.
Mine's fancy.
Yeah.
He's fancy.
So I think we've kind of lost that initial, terror of the original vampire lore. I think we're supposed to be frightened of these creatures, and rightfully so, because they're much more good at like hunting, and we're the prey in this situation. And anyway, all that aside, I'm not super fond of the theme, and because of the way that the game mechanics work, I felt like it was a very similar experience to Clank, but Clank was more fun and more satisfying on like almost every level for me. The one area that I think that this game has an advantage over Clank is that it is a lot easier to set this up. Clank is fantastic, but it's not like the easiest thing
Kind
to
of
set
fiddly.
up. You've really got to like do a lot to set Clank up. And even as you're playing, there's kind of a lot to keep up with. There's a lot of tokens, there's a lot of cards, there's, all this stuff going on. This is sort of reduced, right? It's a lot like Clank, but it's sort of like simmered it down to like a little bit more streamlined experience, a little bit more clean an experience, that kind of stuff. So I do feel like it's a little bit more polished, a little bit more easy access kind of thing. But for the experience that I had playing this game all 3 times, I won once, I lost once, and then we didn't complete one game. For the experience that I had every single time, I was just kind of left with like a meh. Especially I think in a 2-player game, it can feel really anticlimactic for anybody or everybody that's playing in a few different ways. In the game that I won, Nick he wasn't even eligible to score. So I won just because I was eligible to score. Then everything I'd been doing to get points felt like it didn't matter because I was the only person who was going to score anyway. So even if I scored 1 point, I was going to win the game because Nick wasn't eligible to score in that game. And I felt like I'd done really, really well. I got a lot of points in that game, and I was like really excited about how many points that I had acquired and how many things I could pull off. I had this like push your luck element going where I'm like trying to race, and if I have enough time, I can just barely make this happen. And none of that mattered at the end because my opponent wasn't even eligible to score. And then when I lost the game, it felt pretty similar. I felt like I'd done all this work to be able to facilitate the play of the game. I'd done all this stuff throughout the whole game. And at the end of the game, none of it mattered because I died. And I was telling Nick, I feel like, there's a similar feeling in Clank. If you push your luck too hard, you can die in the dungeon or in the cave or whatever. If you die below the line, then you don't get to add up any of your points or anything like that. And if you die above it, then okay, you can add up your points, but you don't get the end game bonus, right? I feel like that's pretty similar, but in this game, it just felt so much worse. It felt like by not being able to score, I had just like erased all the worth of everything that I'd been doing the entire game. And I understand that like, okay, maybe you shouldn't have pushed your luck so hard and you wouldn't have busted, but the feeling of it was just so gross. It was just like, well, what have I even been doing for like the last hour then? None of it mattered at all. And then even when I did win, again, none of it mattered at all because my opponent wasn't eligible to score. So who cares how many points I got? Maybe that's different with more players. It does go up to 6 players, and so far we've only played with 2. So maybe that feeling isn't as bad with more players. And I do understand, like, the point of the game is not to win necessarily, right? It's to play the game and have fun with that experience. So it's not even that I didn't win or that I did win. It's just that the feeling I had when I did win or when I did lose just sort of wiped out all the joy or pleasantry that I'd experienced to get to that point. And that's just a feeling, right? But it's one that I've had both times we've played this game now. And that's unpleasant, I think. And I don't understand why anybody would want to continue to have that experience. Maybe with more players, it's better. Maybe I shouldn't have, maybe we shouldn't have pushed our luck so hard. But if that's a component, if that's a factor of the game, that can happen, that a player is just ineligible to score, I wish it just didn't feel quite so, anticlimactic or for the winner or the loser, or I don't know. I wish it just didn't feel so bad. Anyway, that's what I thought about The Hunger. Nick, what did you think about it?
So I'm trying not to repeat you with what I thought. I kind of liked the challenge of the hunger. So let's see. Let me turn the bad boy around. I liked the challenge of the hunger the first time I died, and I was like, oh man, what did I do wrong? Oh, I got too many humans because I was getting like a bunch of turns where I wasn't doing anything. And then with this game, this next full game we played, I try to get less humans in the beginning, but more humans in the towards the end of the game. But I still feel like I probably got too many because there was like one where I bought there was a bunch of cards in the one slot, and I bought that, and I think that gave me a little too many humans. and I didn't digest quite enough to kind of rid my hand of humans being in there when I drew them later. But yeah, it's I can see where Sarah says it feels anticlimactic when you get to the end and like people die, or one person makes it and kind of wins by default because everyone else was taken out by not making it to the place where you can be protected from the sun. But yeah, I don't know. I like the challenge, but I know that can get old for others, so you have to be kind of wary of that. And also, I feel like after you find out ways to kind of get all the way down and all the way back, isn't everyone going to do that? Or maybe is there going to be other strategies people will try, like, get a bunch of humans, go like just to the plains, don't go to the forests, don't go all the way down there, don't go for the rows, and just kind of do the short game. So I feel like there's a lot of strategy with this one. And I say strategy is like, okay, you're really planning out your entire game at the beginning. You're really trying to make your deck,
Well,
as
you have
fast.
exactly 15 turns for the game,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah, so you can really plan out ahead, but then I feel like, just that push your luck, that greed, excuse me, that can really factor into this game. And it does. If you are greedy, you will die. I just think if you don't, because there's not a lot of times where you can go ahead and purge a bunch of humans from your deck, because you have to be in your play area from hand, play it, and then you can digest them. But or your discard pile. But this is an intense one. I like in Clank. I feel like I know I can make it pretty easily out of the dungeon, in way like playing pretty safe. But this one, I don't know. Sometimes I'm like, maybe not. Am I losing in points? Do I just try to go back just to survive? I just think this one has a lot of uncertainties while you play each game. So replayability, I think
the
in a
replayability in
sense,
this one is pretty good because not only is there that sort of unique challenge or unique puzzle that Nick's talking about, but also the company was very generous with like all the stuff, right? So there's a lot of cards. Every game we've played with like less than half of the cards available to us. There's a lot of these the mission tokens. There's like a bunch in the box that we're not even playing with. There's a lot of these treasure tokens. So every game you're only playing with a fraction of the available stuff that you have to play with. So that means that the next time you play, you could be playing with like a good chunk of the missions could be different than the missions that were in your last game, or like all the treasure might be different than the treasure that was available in your last game. You might see like totally new cards that you've never seen before. So I do think like there's a good chunk of stuff in the box to help make the game like replayable and keep it fresh time after time.
I just think
Even
you have to
if
know.
the board is like, pretty well set the whole time.
Yeah, I just think you have to know about the punishing factors within this game, and if you don't make it, that you die unless you change kind of the way it plays, where you decide, hey, it's a little kinder, getting to at least to the snowy area or the mountain area, and go ahead and survive. Well, I'll lose a bunch of points, but at least I'll, be able to score for the game. Just really depending on what you want to do with each one. So there is a lot of replayability, and I think a lot of strategy / planning within this game. And I think you really gotta kind of go by ride by the seat of your pants, and just hang on for the ride, because I think each game is going to be very different. You can't just be like, well, I'm going to do these things, because sometimes they might come out or they might not come out. But
Well, and then like the ways that the different components sort of interact with each other too, I feel like that could create a lot of variability between games as well. Because like one of the things that you can do is you can acquire familiars, which are like permanent cards that you get to keep out in front of you, like in your play area, and you get to use them pretty much every turn for the most part. Some of them have like slightly different rules that govern them, but for the most part, you get to use a familiar like pretty much every turn. And so depending on the familiars you might acquire and the like different combinations of familiars you might acquire, they can really subtly change up like your strategies as well, I think. And then also there are different types of humans, right? They have like almost like I don't know, like what are these called? Factions? They're almost
Yes,
like
yeah.
different factions of humans. So no, so like here's like three different factions of humans that you might see in the game. So there's all these different factions of humans, and for the most part, that doesn't mean a whole lot. But every now and then you'll get like a mission that'll say like for each type of thing that you get, you'll get extra points. So like this one's a familiar, but there are ones like this in the deck too, where let's say like for each of this type of human that you hunt, you get an extra point. So there's like strategies that come into play as you're selecting your missions, so that you might want to hunt specific types of humans as well, right? There's like a mission that says that if you have for each human you have like a full set of unique humans, then you get X amount of points. So you might want to collect like a big huge variety of different types of humans so that you can score a lot of points for that. Or you if you have the card that says that you score extra for like the military humans, you might want to collect a lot of those, right? So I think that there's a lot of like subtle strategy that you can choose to engage with if you want to, but you don't have to if you'd rather just sort of like push your luck a little bit harder. One of the things that I feel like I may have maybe sort of made a mistake on was that I collected this mission, which says that I get 5 points if I have hunted at least 13 humans by the end of the game. And then I also got that in conjunction with the rose one that I had at the beginning of the game. So I knew that I was going to be trying to get all the way to the end of the track and all the way back, but also hunt a lot of humans, which clutter up your hand. So I probably chose sort of two conflicting objectives there and then tried to make both work, which is probably in part why I didn't do as well this turn or this game. So there's definitely like some interesting things happening. I just feel like the feelings that you experience while playing this game, especially as a two-player, it almost never, not yet, has it felt like pleasant at the end of the experience. Maybe if we both survived and we could add up our points, it would feel a little bit less like a waste of time. Or maybe if, I don't know, maybe what we should do is if we know that we like to push our luck a little harder, maybe we should expand the safe zone, right? Maybe we should say, if you can just make it back to like the snowy area around the castle, or something like that. But I feel like Nick is right. There's a quite a bit of challenge in the game. It's quite difficult. And if you push your luck too hard, or if like the cards just don't fall in your favor, then I feel like that feeling that I've had, it just kind of wipes out all the pleasantries.
All right, well, that was our thoughts on The Hunger by Renegade Game Studios and Origames. And so, yeah, we hope you all enjoyed this vlog and you stay tuned for all our other content that'll be coming up. And be subscribed if you're not subscribed. Get it. All right, we'll see y'all next time. Toodles!